This is Team West Coast Best Coast, and we are doing a project on global soybean production from 1969 to 2009. Soybeans are one of the most ubiquitous commodities. They are processed into biofuels, added into thousands of industrial products, eaten as tofu and edamame, and also used in animal feed. During World War II, it became a popular source of oil and protein, which was hard to find among many Allied countries. It is also traditionally important in crop rotation, because it is used as a method for fixing nitrogen. Soybeans produce significantly more protein per acre than most other uses of land, so the industry is growing significantly around the world, and it will probably keep on growing. But the soybean industry has also been associated with environmental issues, such as the destruction of the Amazon rainforests over the past few years, as soybean plantations have grown steadily across South America. In 2008, Brazil even extended a one-year ban on the purchase of soybean products from deforested Amazon areas.
So what we did is we got some data from the UN, and we also got the shapefiles of the countries, and we put them together in CartoDB, and we came up with this map. And we realized that the problem was the data we had showed absolute values of production, and the problem was that bigger countries would always be a darker green than other countries, because they're just bigger and they produce more. So in the example we have here, this is looking at 1969, and then if we switch the map and we're looking at 2009, there isn't a significant change because the bigger countries just have more soybean production. So what we did is we then went back to the data and we changed it. So instead of mapping the absolute values, we wanted to be mapping the percentage of soybean production relative to each country's maximum soybean production, which means that the value would be 1 when it peaked, and otherwise it would be a smaller percentage. And we hope that by mapping this, we'd be able to show the change in the soybean industry over the years in each country, which would show us a more relative picture than in our original model.
So this is the second model that we came up with based on each country and its relative production to itself. And I'm just going to walk you through each decade that we've charted. This is 1969. As you can see, the United States, Mexico, and China are still the darkest on the map. This is because, relative to their max production, they still have a higher percentage than other countries at the time. And as you can see, back in 1969, South America is still very light, so soybean production hasn't really taken hold there yet. This next map is 1979. As you can see, soybean production in Argentina is increasing, and Australia also increased a lot from the previous map. The United States, Mexico, and China continue to be large producers of soybeans. And this is 1989. As you can see, I apologize, I pulled up the wrong map just now. This is actually 1989. As you can see, production of soybeans in the United States has dropped. It's much lighter than it was in the previous map. This one. And production in Argentina also decreased, as did production in China. And Australia and Mexico are still at their peak production right now. In 1999, the United States is increasing again. Mexico has dropped significantly, as you can see. It used to be dark green, and now it's completely white. Canada has increased. China is once again increasing. And Australia is still at the peak of its soybean production. And that brings us to 2009, where South America production has increased. Australia has gone down. Production in Russia and India has also increased significantly. In the previous map, as you can see, there was no production in Russia, and now it is significantly higher. Canada has also increased. It is now the darkest shade of green. And Europe is slowly starting to see some growth in soybean production as well. So currently, the United States, Argentina, Brazil, China, and India are the world's largest soybean producers, producing approximately 90% of the world's soybean supply.
We've made a lot of observations, but the next step would be to find out why and explain the changes. Ideally, we would also love to have a slide to show the change over time, but we didn't have enough time or coding skills to do that. Right now, the problems we have is that the countries are still colored relative to each other, but we would like to color the countries relative to each other over the decades as well, so we could see in the 1970s a much lower global production compared to today.
And this was our project on global soybean growth. Thank you so much for listening.